Good morning, boys and girls. It's Miss Rosanne here. I have your Sunday school lesson for Sunday, July the 5th. I hope you guys had a great 4th of July. Happy 4th. I hope you had some good food. You got to shoot fireworks. Maybe had some ice cream. I can't wait to eat some ice cream later. Anyway, but this month we're going to be talking about Obadiah, and it's considered one of the minor prophets, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But our title for today is called Help Others, and our text is the book of Obadiah, and there's only one chapter in the book of Obadiah, so it's the whole chapter. But our objectives are we're going to know that Obadiah shared a message about God's judgment upon the people of Edom. And we're going to think about this. God wants us to pay attention to the needs of others, care about the problems of others, and not take advantage of others and not join in attacking or bullying others. And we're going to do this by taking action and helping others this week. And we have a new application verse. It's behind me right here. It's at the top. It's Micah chapter 6, verse 8. And our theme is help the hurting, okay? I'll tell you what that verse says in just a little bit, okay? The name Obadiah means the Lord's servant. So the book of Obadiah, like I said, only has one chapter. It's the shortest book in the Old Testament. It records the vision God gave him about what was going to happen to the people of Edom. Who exactly were the people of Edom? And several hundred years before Obadiah spoke God's message, there were twin brothers named Jacob and Esau. And some of you guys may have heard us talk about Jacob and Esau before. But they didn't really like each other. We've talked about them a couple of times before. They were brothers, but they did not like each other. Jacob had tricked Esau. He also called Edom out of his birthright or inheritance, and also out of the special blessing from their father. After these two things happened, Jacob left because Esau was so angry and he wanted to kill him. And that's terrible. So the Edomites were the people who were descendants of Esau. There are many passages in the Old Testament where the Edomites went against God's people, Jacob's family tree, and it was time for their judgment. And so Obadiah had prophesied from God that the judgment against the Edomites would prove to be so severe that there would be no Edomites left. So here's a picture of Jacob and Esau. They were twin brothers, and I can't imagine not liking my brothers or even wanting to kill one of my brothers. That's terrible. But they did not like each other. And that's him. We'll talk about these little pictures in just a little bit, okay? But here's Obadiah, and this is who we're talking about this month. Obadiah. That's a funny word, but that's what we're going to talk about this month. So throughout this month, and we're in the month of July, and that's unbelievable that we're already in July, we will be looking into 4 minor prophet books of the Old Testament. And they're not minor as in not important, but they're called this because these books, they're shorter than the other books of prophecy in the Old Testament. And today we will learn the messages that God gave to Obadiah about the Edomites' refusal to help God's people. So the prophet Obadiah, he spoke God's message in a unique way because he wasn't speaking to God's people about their sin, but rather about the sin of the people of Edom against God's people and the judgment that would come to them. Okay? Let me get my there's another poster I didn't put up, but I'll show it to you guys. So we're going to talk about this right here. The Edomites, okay? We're going to talk about this. We're going to go over these 4 little points right here. Okay? So just hang in there with me. There's a lot. You know, always the first Sunday of the month, there's always a whole lot to our lesson, okay? I'm going to read verse 11. So if you have your Bible, go ahead and turn to Obadiah. And it's going to be It's right before the New Testament. It's kind of hard to find. The minor prophets are hard for me to find, so it's going to be hard for me to tell you how to find it. So you may have to get your mom or dad to help you find it. But we're going to be in Obadiah. It's chapter 1. I'm going to read verse 11. It says, "In the day that thou stoodest on the other side, in the day that the strangers carried away captive his forces, and foreigners entered into his gates and cast lots upon Jerusalem, even thou wast as one of them." So from this verse, we see the Edomites, they ignored the needs of others. And when God's people were invaded, the Edomites did nothing. They did absolutely nothing. So even when the enemies of God's people carried off their wealth, the Edomites, they still didn't do anything. They saw how God's people were in trouble, but their actions of doing nothing, what was that saying about them? They didn't care, right? They just said, whatever, do what you want to. That's kind of how that was their attitude about it. Let's read verse 12. "But thou shouldest not have looked on the day of thy brother in the day that he became a stranger, neither shouldest thou have rejoiced over the children of Judah in the day of their destruction, neither shouldest thou have spoken proudly in the day of distress." So this verse, we learn the Edomites rejoiced at the problems of others. And that's these, we're going over these little bullet points that I showed you. That's these right here. That first one was they ignored the needs of others. And here's this one, rejoiced at the problems of others. Okay. So when God's people were taken captive to faraway lands like slaves, the Edomites were happy. They were like, woohoo, yeah, they're gone. That wasn't nice, was it? They should have been sad, sorry this terrible thing happened, but they weren't because they didn't care. The way God's people were mistreated didn't bother them. Instead, they were happy because of the bad things happening to God's people. What are some things that they might have said as they rejoiced at the problem of God's people? What are some things they might have said? They were just happy. They cheered, they praised, they were like, whoo, yay, they're gone. We don't have to worry about that anymore. We didn't care anyway, but they're gone. See ya. So verse 13 tells us, "Thou shouldest not have entered into the gate of my people in the day of their calamity. Yea, thou shouldest not have looked on their affliction in the day of their calamity, nor have laid hands on their substance in the day of their calamity." So this verse, we learn the Edomites, they took advantage of others during a difficult time. It was bad enough how they treated God's people, but then they went into their land and they took what they wanted from what was left. So these God's people were captured and they were sent away. So the Edomites went to where they were and just took all their stuff. If there was something there, they took it. Now, was that very nice? No. God's people were hurting, and the Edomites saw it as a change to get some more stuff. Rather than helping, they took advantage of the problems God's people faced. Verse 14 says, "Neither shouldest thou have stood in the crossway to cut off those of his that did escape, neither shouldest thou have delivered up those of his that did remain in the day of distress." This verse tells us that the Edomites joined others to attack God's people. It's very interesting. So through Obadiah, God accused the Edomites of standing at the crossroads to kill those who tried to escape or capture any survivors. It was bad enough how they treated God's people, but to join with others resulted in God's judgment against them. So one group of people hating another group is terrible, but when joined with others, the trouble worsens and the violence increases. This kind of goes with the riots and the protests kind of happening right now. It's kind of the same thing because there's a group of people that don't like a certain group of people or a certain situation, and then other people are joining and the violence increases and the trouble worsens. So that would be an example of what's happening now in our time. That's an example of what's happening now of people that are kind of bullying other people. I don't know if you'd call it bullying, but they're just, they're making bad decisions and other people are joining them to make a certain cause worse than what it already is. Anyway, you can ask your parents kind of more about that, and they can, if they feel that you should know, they'll explain it to you. But don't hesitate to ask them, because I'm sure your parents will be glad to explain to you kind of what's going on with the riots and the protests and stuff like that, okay? Or if you want to ask me, if you see me at church, or if you want to send me a message, I'll be glad to answer your question, okay? So all 4 of these attempts by the Edomites to destroy God's people resulted in his judgment against them. So verse 15 says, "For the day of the Lord is near upon all the heathen. As thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thine own head." That's verse 15. So we're going to read verse 18. Verse 18, "And the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble, and they shall kindle in them and devour them. And there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for the Lord hath spoken it." So the Lord said there would be nobody left of the house of Esau. Okay, there was 2 boys, remember? Jacob and Esau. And even in that verse, it said the house of Jacob shall be a fire, the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble. But nothing will remain of the house of Esau. So he was going to destroy Esau and all of his people. Okay? That was their punishment for being ugly and rude and not accepting and very discouraging towards God's people. That was their punishment. Okay? So this came true because from history we know the Edomites fought side by side with the Jews in the rebellion in Rome in AD 66 through 70. They were destroyed by Rome and never heard of as a people group again. So just as God said, he destroyed the Edomites. We must learn from their example that how we treat others matters to God. I want you guys to say that with me. How we treat others matters to God. That is so important for you guys to stick that on a sticky note. Put it in your backpack, put it in your lunchbox, put it in your locker, put it in your pocket. You cling tight to that because that is so important, that how you treat others matters to God. And he is the only one that we should be worried about what thinks of us. Like, what does he think of me? What does he think of you? Like, he needs to be proud of us. He needs to be so glad that we're one of his children. So how you treat others really matters to him, okay? And I want you guys to really cling on to that, especially with school fixing to start back up. You guys really cling to the fact that how you treat others matters to God, okay? Okay, so we're going to listen to a story, and I think all month, I haven't flipped through all my pages, but I think each Sunday in July, we have a story that I'm going to read. And we've done these before, and they're kind of fun, so it kind of gives you something to look forward to. So we're going to listen to this story between siblings to discover how a brother wasn't that different from the Edomites in the Old Testament. Oh boy. All right, so we're going to read this story. Okay, CJ, this is one of the boys, okay? CJ was great at math and made all A's, but his sister Sarah was the opposite. She was good at many things, but math was not one of them. As she was working on a math worksheet, she became frustrated. She slammed her pencil down and she sighed very loudly, "Oh, math!" I've done that the last probably 2 months too because I was taking a math class. CJ ignored her and kept playing his video game. Still frustrated, Sarah sighed even louder. "Oh, I'm so frustrated with this math." CJ laughed at her, moaning, "Math." He was good at math. Thought it was funny that she was having such a trouble with it. Then he had a great plan. He said to his sister, "I'll help you finish your math if you will do my chores for the week." "That's not fair, and you know it," she said in a pouting voice. "You know I have to finish this worksheet before I can watch a movie." About that time, their older brother came in, and they both started teasing her. "You can't watch a movie. You can't watch a movie. We can. You can't. Na, 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 na." They chimed together. What none of them knew was their mother heard everything that had been said. She marched into that room, and the laughing brothers immediately stopped. She pointed to CJ and asked, "What's the problem?" He answered, "Sarah doesn't understand math." "No, that's not the real problem, is it?" she asked. "It's not the real problem, is it?" Hold on. Okay. So what was the real problem in this situation? Was it the fact that Sarah didn't understand her math? That is a problem, but that wasn't the main problem of why Mom walked into the room, right? Okay, I want you to think about it. I want you to listen to 2 Bible verses I'm going to read that tell us what God says about helping other people. The first one is Ephesians 4:32. "And be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God for Christ's sake hath forgiven you." Galatians 5:13b. "But by love serve one another." So what was the problem? Her brothers were making fun of her. That's right. And they were being very ugly to her. So that was the problem. The problem that Sarah didn't understand her math, yes, that is a problem, but that was not the problem in this situation. The fact that her brothers were being ugly to her was the problem, right? So God commands his followers to be kind, be tender-hearted, be compassionate. When we choose to help others, we're showing kindness and caring. What is the way CJ could have shown kindness to his sister? He could have helped her with her math, and she would have got to watch the movie, but he shouldn't have said, "You do my chores for a week." Maybe like, "If you'll clean the toilet, like Mom asked me to do, I'll help you with your math." That's just one thing, but not all of his chores. But he should have just helped her, right? Because that would have been the right thing to do. So when we serve one another, we're helping to meet a need. God commands us to not only serve one another, but in the right attitude, in love. What would have been the right type of attitude for CJ to have in this scenario? Probably a loving one. Like, he knew his sister was frustrated and she was struggling. So maybe he should have just helped her because he knew he was good at math and he could easily help her understand it. And they could both go on and she could watch the movie and he could finish playing his video game, right? So notice it doesn't say God suggests these things, but rather what he commands or requires. If a parent suggests you organize the games so you know which ones you have, that is simply a suggestion. But when the parent commands you to clean up the games immediately, that means it is required and you are to do it at that moment. I think a lot of us need that reminding. When we suggest something, it's not necessarily right then, but if we ask you or command you, we really, really want you guys to do it right then. Okay? All right, so our verse this month is Micah 6:8. "What doth the Lord require of thee, but to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy God?" That is Micah 6:8, and it's back here. It's kind of up here, okay? So this month we're going to learn how we can be a difference maker. You see another poster back here? It says be a difference maker. And the first one for today is help others. Okay? But how can we help? We learned about 4 specific wrong ways the Edomites responded to God's people hurting. And now we're going to look at the right ways so we know how to respond in a helpful way. Okay, so I want you to get your field notes out. I haven't even said anything about them. Get your field notes out. This is the front. And at the bottom, it's going to say ST-1K. And they should be in order if you got your packet from me, okay? And the back is going to be like this. And I know most of you, you love to do the crossword puzzles. But do we do this part first? No, we do this part first and then fill in our blocks, okay? And we're going to talk about it. All right, so you have your field notes that says neighborhood at the top. It's got your word bank. It says right ways to respond to others. And then there's fill in the blanks, and it tells you where those words go, okay? So, I got to find my other poster. We are. Okay? And I'll hold it up at the end so you guys can make sure you got it right, okay? All right, so we pay attention to the needs of others. So if you have your field notes sheet, it's pay attention to the needs of others, okay? If you are focused on yourself and what you want to do, you won't see the needs of others around you. As followers of Christ, doing nothing is not pleasing to God. Okay, so the first blank is going to be attention, and the second one, needs. Attention and needs. Okay. All right, and the next one, care about the problems of others. It's not always easy to help others, but when we truly care and want to obey God, our actions will prove it. So you've got care and problems. Care and problems. Those are your next two. All right, drop down to the third one. Don't take advantage of others, especially during a difficult time. So you have don't take advantage, is that blank, of others, especially during a difficult time. So your next words are advantage and difficult. Okay? So the last one, it says don't join in a blank or blank others. Don't join in attacking or bullying others. Ooh, I want you guys to put a star, put you a big old star by that one. Don't join in attacking or bullying others. When others are laughing or making fun of someone, don't be a part of the problem. Instead, be part of the standing for and helping that person. Being silent is not helping. Choose to speak up for that person. Knowing the right way to help others is not enough. You must take action. So what are some ways you can help in the places you go, the people you see, and the things you do? So like imagine if you were to go, say, to Dollar General with your mom and you see the buggy out in the parking lot. What would be the nice thing to do? Take the buggy inside, right? Or if you see somebody that's loading their car and it may be like an elderly person, you could help them put their groceries in their car. But ask them first. Don't just walk up to them. They may scare them. But just some nice little things you could do. If you ever see somebody in need, ask them if you can help them. And they may tell you no, and that's okay. I mean, you offered, okay? So your next step this week is to take action in helping others, okay? I'm going to put this right here for just a second. That's your blank answers, okay? Okay, so you can pause that and look at it. And you'll answer all of these little questions, okay? All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed the lesson today. It is a little long because it's the first one of the month, but we have more fun stuff to do this month. VBS is coming up. I hope all of you registered for VBS. I'll be teaching with Miss Dina, I think 3rd and 4th grade, and I can't wait. I'm so excited for you guys to see what we've got planned for you. I hope you guys had a great 4th of July. If you're vacationing somewhere, be safe, have fun, and I will see you soon. I love you all. Bye.